Hi, welcome to Devo's second annual SOC Analyst Appreciation Day. Devo established SOC Appreciation Day to pay overdue kudos to you, encouraging organisations to improve SOC Analyst job certification and also your well-being. So we've put together a series of content today, starting this morning with the EMEA English Language SOC Appreciation Day panel. Following this session, actually, later on this afternoon, there's a whole series of content starting from 4 p.m. UK time, and that goes on for another 5 hours. So if you like what you see today, please register again further for more content later on this afternoon. A bit of housekeeping before we start, which will hopefully improve your experience on this On24 platform. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a bunch of new engagement tools, which includes Q&A, resources, and the slides. All windows are resizable, so you can make them smaller or bigger depending on your preference. If you've got any questions for the panelist, or if you've got any technical challenges, please use the Q&A. As this is broadcast in the web, if at any time it freezes, then please just press the refresh button and it will automatically sort itself out, or worst case scenario, come back in again. But there usually shouldn't be any problems here. You can find any answers for any common technical problems in the chat as well. This session is being recorded and there'll be follow-up emails coming later. Without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to your host for today, Professor of Global Politics and Cybersecurity at University College London, Madeline Carr. Over to you, Madeline.
Thank you very much, Justine, and thanks for inviting me to do this. I think it's just such an important topic that we're talking about today. And of course, I myself come from a very non-traditional background into cybersecurity, having started life as a international relations scholar. So really excited to talk to our great lineup of panelists today about, different kind of pathways into this this industry. I mean, we all are aware of the tremendous skills gap in cybersecurity. We hear this over and over again, and we have for many years now. And I guess we don't see that abating at all. In fact, it seems to be getting worse. One of the very real ways that we can potentially improve this is by broadening the pool of people that we consider as candidates for this type of work. And that's what we're all about today, is how do we bring people from less conventional or traditional pathways into cybersecurity, specifically into work as SOC analysts, which are so very badly needed, and what kind of pools of people out there could we be tapping into? So today we want to talk about really exploring the type of skills, that translatable skills from other areas that work in the SOC, different types of thinking, of neurodivergent thinking, untraditional experiences, and just different pathways for getting into this world and for looking for those people. Have a bit of a talk about how to actually grow that team and develop those people once they're in the SOC, and of course how to retain staff, because that's also a huge problem in this sector. Now we've got three terrific people to talk about this today. Couldn't have a better lineup of panelists. First, we have Vince Lawrence, who's the Vice President Global Cybersecurity Strategist at Devo, has a long background in this sector and a lot of experience. I'm sure you have hired many people, Vince, in your time. We've got Natalie Page, who's a cyber threat intelligence analyst at a company called Talion. And Natalie herself comes from a very non-traditional background, so really looking forward to hearing your experience, Natalie, how you got here and what keeps you here. And then we've got JJ Davey. JJ is a SOC client lead at Bridwell, and again, a lot of experience in this sector. And I would say also someone who's known for his kind of lateral thinking in this sector and has a lot of views on where SOCs are going and the future of what we do. So great lineup. Now, I just want to also encourage people who are attending online, please participate by posting your questions in the chat. We really want to make this as interactive as we possibly can, online. So please put your questions in there, anything that you've got for our panelists, and we'll feed your questions through. But perhaps if we can just kick off with the first kind of the first question that I'll bring to each of the panelists in the order that I introduced you. Maybe just talk a little bit about your background, who you are, and what do you think are those kind of soft skills that are critical for a SOC analyst? What is it that we're looking for that goes outside the technical? Maybe Vince, you could kick off.
Thanks a lot, Madeline. That's a tremendous question. Just to talk a little bit about myself, you said that I might have, I would say, hired a lot of people in that area. Recently, I celebrated my 200th hiring in cybersecurity. So having hired more than 200 people in that area, I can tell you that, yeah, I will not say that I saw it all, but I saw a lot. Basically, I'm celebrating my 25th year in cyber. And when it comes to soft skills, from a SOC perspective, I would quote mainly three things. First of all, flexibility, okay? A SOC analyst must be able to bounce on everything that is popping up while he's on the job, but also adapt to the environment he's working with. And talking about environment, we're talking about client environment, but also the SOC environment that he is delivering from. The second, I would say, most important soft skills that we could talk about is basically teamwork. A lot of people are considering a SOC analyst as a solo job. This is absolutely not true. A SOC analyst needs to be able to work in teams. He needs to be able to communicate, and he needs to be able to talk with each and every member of the team at all layers. And last but not least, I think communication is key for a SOC analyst in terms of soft skills. He needs to be able to talk with clients, and he needs also to be able to talk with, again, team members, but also with the ecosystem. We are living in a world where the threat landscape is growing like crazy, and using your own network to become more efficient is really something that is key for a SOC analyst.
I'll jump on next then. So my background, I studied criminology and criminal justice previously, and then I worked in prison for a year before doing a master's in cyber, and then got into the SOC via a service desk analyst job, and then after about 8 months in this job was able to get onto the TI team, which I've been on now for 3.5 years. So when it comes to soft skills that, like you say, aren't from the technical perspective, my top ones, for us when we're hiring, we're looking for somebody who's very inquisitive and very nosy in the work that we do, that is wanting to go down rabbit holes when investigating, and when they come to hurdles, they don't just stop there, they try and find ways to work around the hurdles. Something from the criminology background I have myself, and understanding the criminal mindset, is being able to come at problems in the SOC with a critical mindset, so not losing sight of the forest for the trees, but then also being able to see the trees and think outside the box, coming at a problem with different angles, and also as well somebody that has a good judge of human behaviour, because the biggest threat that we do face in cyber is the human element. So whether this is from an actor that is malicious or non-malicious, or a criminal that's working inside and outside of an organisation, for me, being able to understand that criminal behaviour from the human element is really important for somebody that's coming to work inside a SOC, I think.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Natalie. I think we've just lost Madeline. She's going to come back shortly. So I'm just going to take the first question for now while we're waiting for Madeline to come back in. Again, I'll probably take this one to you, Vincent, if that's okay. Oh, actually, no, JJ, please introduce yourself. We haven't done that same question to yourself. Would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Brilliant, thank you. Good morning. My name is JJ Davey. I'm a SOC client lead at Bridewell. Been in cybersecurity now for 5 years, technology as a whole for about 11 years. I specialise in security operation maturity, as well as helping people build reactive and proactive security operations centres. I think one of the biggest skill gaps I can see from a non-technical perspective, and Natalie touched upon it, is critical thinking and being able to ask the right questions, that kind of Socratic questioning technique, where you ask the right questions and understand the problems that businesses are facing, understanding what is the root cause of the problem, where does the problem reside, understanding if there's a better solution or a new way that you could potentially stop a threat. So introducing new security controls, and that comes through good questioning as well as being able to listen well as well. It's a really underrated skill. If you're the quietest person in the room, you can normally hear the most. And if you are the loudest, you normally miss some very critical elements. So being able to listen well is also a key skill.
Really interesting. Yeah, very good point about being able to really pay attention and listen and I guess be tuned in. Maybe JJ, you could also just respond to this question we have about what made you interested in this in the first place, and what kind of steps did you take to get engaged with cybersecurity? What drew you in?
So I'm one of these people that accidentally fell into cybersecurity. So I found myself on hard times back in 2017, and I saw a role for a SOC analyst. At the time, I didn't know what a SOC analyst was. I didn't know cybersecurity was an industry. And I just looked at the job description and thought, I can do that. Applied for it, got the interview, and I got the role. Then it was trial by fire, trying to learn everything that I needed to learn, and I was thrown into this world of cybersecurity, and I absolutely loved it. I tried everything from pen testing to SOC analyst stuff, and I really started to engage with the industry and really start to enjoy it.
We've lost audio there, Madeline. Natalie, do you take that question to yourself, please?
Sorry about that.
I'm going to jump on that. Yeah, so as I say, I worked in prison for a year and I'd studied criminology beforehand. And day to day, I was working with prisoners and really getting to understand how they got themselves to the point of committing crimes and ending up in prison. But while I worked in prison, at the time, this was 8 years ago, and I wasn't coming across cyber criminals. So it, at the time, felt like this really new, exciting area of crime that I really wanted to explore and get involved in. What I actually found that physical crimes and cyber crimes aren't too dissimilar when it comes to the motivations. Usually power and money run parallel when it comes to the physical and the cyber crimes. But I did find that the one thing I was looking for was how exciting and rapidly evolving the sector was. And like I say, after this, I did my master's, and then it took me about a year to get into a cyber role. There was a lot of applications sent out, and I did have to go back to the drawing board, but landed in a SOC, luckily, and moved over from service desk to threat intelligence.
Yeah, it's a great story, Natalie. I think there's a kind of similarity there between yours and JJ's story in this, perhaps in the sense that people in your positions really benefit from having strong people skills, being able to listen, being able to work with a range of people, kind of, and particularly, of course, under pressure. I wonder, Vince, perhaps if you could talk a little bit about, I mean, you've obviously done this a lot about bringing people in from non-traditional backgrounds. When we do that, what kind of training do you think is important to kind of help those people come up to succeed and the, you know, maximum potential? What kind of support would be helpful?
Basically, you need to tackle that from two different angles, the technical skills and the soft skills. But more importantly, when people are coming in the SOC world from a non-traditional background, you need to mentor them. It's way much more a question of mentoring and being next to them than a pure question of training. Okay, those profiles have natural interest from technology. We could almost qualify all of them as geeks and super geeks, and you know they directly dig into the technology. And as long as you can provide them a good mix of freedom of searching, trying to also publish things, trying to develop their own technical stuff, but at the same time providing them some training on processes, but also pure technical cybersecurity training on cybersecurity technologies, you will make them, I would say, very, very efficient in a short period of time. On top of this, if you act as a mentor, if you select your top analysts also to drive and be ready to answer to any question younger analysts have, you will create this very positive energy. And my experience shows that mentoring within a SOC really brings people together and really bring people up to speed very fast.
Thanks. That's really interesting, yeah, a very clear kind of view on that role of mentorship, which I hadn't anticipated actually from you, Vince. Very interesting response. We've got a question in the from the online participants, from Kevin Knight at Talion, who's asking, you know, given an increase in cyber threats, do you believe that the security analyst role should be perceived as an entry role into a cyber risk? Do you think we need more experienced SOC analysts, or do you feel that that's an entry level role? Maybe JJ, what's your view on that?
So I have some hot takes on this, and it's something that I have addressed quite recently. I don't think there is many roles in cybersecurity that we should perceive as entry level, because we are dealing with something quite critical to a business, which essentially is risk. We are the forefront of technical risk. So we should have people that are in those seats that are experienced enough to be able to confidently handle what they're thrown at them. Now, yes, a security operations center is a team, but what about those times when the team is thin on the ground? We need to make sure that the resource staff that we have available are capable and able to respond to incidents and resolve those in a timely manner. Overall, we are there to reduce impact to the business. So we need to make sure that we can do so. I have seen it firsthand where a company has pushed to hire people that don't have that experience or don't have that knowledge and bringing it to the company, that actually cause more impact during an incident. They do the wrong thing, or they quarantine the wrong device, or they work more on intuition as opposed to actual evidence that they found. And it does get quite dangerous. And overall, that can become a risk. So I think the answer lies in between the risk appetite of the company and the resources available of that company in terms of what they can hire and how much training they can offer on the job.
Might be interesting to hear your view on that, Natalie, because I think that was perhaps your first role. I'm not sure, but and also perhaps you know, how to combine that kind of risk appetite that JJ describes with Vince's views on the role of mentorship. Is that something that was an important part of your entry, Natalie? And what would you say about that kind of pressure on people new to cyber who are working in a SOC?
Yeah, I mean, if we take myself as an example, who came from service desk and moved to threat intelligence and now has been doing the role for 3.5 years, I would say to Kevin's question that no, you don't necessarily need to be experienced to move into the role. You can be successful moving from like a position like I did. What's the important part is, from a managerial point of view, is that we're supporting that person if we're going to move them in, and we know that they have, like we say today, the soft skills that they need but might not have the technical experience. So it all comes down to supporting that person. I know at Talion we really encourage knowledge transfer sessions with other teams, which is really important, not just for that individual, but it also then builds relationships with other teams so that when they are trying to tackle a problem in the future, they already have that relationship built with another team so that they can approach that other analyst and get support. So being controversial, I would disagree. I think that you can move into this space without the technical background necessary. It just depends on the support that you're going to give that person.
And what kind of support and training made a difference to you in those kind of early phases of your career?
So something that made a big difference to my career, as I say, was first being able to approach the different teams in the SOC for support, but also finding a way in which I could enjoy, found effective. So being someone that has dyslexia, when I first joined, I didn't find reading large amounts of information every day just from reports was a helpful way for me to ingest information. So finding a way that I could get information that I enjoyed, such as using podcasts or videos. I'm much more a visual person. That was quite a game changer for me and accelerating my career. So it's all individual basis, isn't it? What works for somebody might not work for somebody else. And it's really finding what works for you that will take your career to the next level.
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting point, because I guess in a way, in a somewhat homogenous space, the kind of training and the way we teach and train and support people can also become relatively homogenous. And that's a really interesting observation of yours, Natalie, that there are other ways to absorb that information and how to access them. JJ, what are your thoughts on really the kind of support, bringing people in from non-traditional backgrounds who don't necessarily have that kind of technical background? And the point that you're making is well taken, that these are critical roles. What kind of support and training do you feel is really most effective?
So again, we need to pay respect to the resources available to the company, because not every company is able to hire somebody at the entry level, because it can be quite costly to train them. But what they need to do is develop a skills matrix of what they require somebody to have in that particular role. And then around that skills matrix, they need to develop training plans that help bring them to the level that they need. What they can't do is tell people, right, you need to learn this and this, and not support them. They need to develop training plans alongside a skills matrix that relates to the business requirements. So what they need to do is understand, right, okay, people have, especially if we talk about people with neurodiversity, we need to understand, right, they learn in different ways. They don't just pick a piece of paper and give them 4 weeks and they've learned the standard operating procedures and the modus operandi of the company. No, they need to be able to learn in different ways: audio, visual, practical. We need to have a good blend of all these different elements to help bring people up to that acceptable level for that business, and also to give them the route to progression. There's nothing worse than doing all this training and not seeing a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, and do you feel that there's I guess, to an extent this is individual to different companies, but do you feel, or open question to the panel, does anyone know of a kind of pool of resources out there that approach this in different, maybe a bit more innovative ways, that people can turn to if they do have those different kind of learning styles? What about you, JJ?
So I think it's going to have to be completely tailored by the business. And what I mean is, if we are going to build that skills matrix, we're going to have to look at different training platforms. We're going to have to look at practical training platforms. We're going to have to look at platforms that maybe do a mix of training and academic and training requirements. Because there is no one size fits all. There's no kind of golden slipper that we can just mold to everybody's feet in terms of that training requirement. It really needs to come down to what does a SOC manager want of their analysts, and what does that SOC manager perceive the analyst to learn, and what does that SOC manager have in the pocket in terms of their budget when it comes to building training platforms.
Yeah, and that's often a big issue, isn't it? Vince, what do you feel kind of advice could be offered to a SOC manager really wanting to stretch out and bring some people in from non-traditional backgrounds, but are conscious of this, you know, the reality that there will be some training, some mentoring, some education necessary? What would your advice be to those people?
One of my first advice, and not just for the sake of being next gen, because I'm getting too old now in this business, I would bring some new kind of methodology to make sure that we also, I would say, engage people to play with new things, and gamification could be a good example. I saw a lot of companies that are now driving security operations centers training through gamifications, and it brings a lot of results. Gamification in terms of a battle between a red team and a blue team of attackants and team of defenders. Also gamifications in trying to exploit vulnerabilities and to detect them from a SOC perspective as soon as possible. It's true, and bouncing on what JJ said, that it might be additional costs for an organization because these are a new kind of process, of training process, but this is really something I would encourage SOC managers to dig in. It truly shows very good results.
Yeah, really interesting. I mean, that actually just came up in the Q&A from Arnaud Lemoine, that, you know, gamification is a path forward. And I guess you were speaking that it may be useful if this was a little bit more industry-wide, so that every SOC manager isn't having to kind of reinvent the wheel. If there was, you know, if there were a body of work around different educational methods and different training methods to support people from non-traditional backgrounds into these roles, I guess that, you know, that would make it better for everybody. Natalie, just thinking about others who maybe don't have a conventional technical background, thinking about a role in cybersecurity, and thinking about whether that's a career for them, what kind of advice would you have for people who are thinking about breaking into the sector or considering taking up a role?
Yeah, so I'd use myself as an example. If you are struggling not to give up, that would be my first piece of advice. It did take me 12 months of applying for jobs and hundreds of applications before I finally got into the role that I do now. One of the things that I did while I was struggling was I went back to the drawing board. I had a look at, like we say, the soft skills that I have, that we spoke about today, and then also other areas that I've worked in before where the experience would transfer over. So I've done quite a few admin roles beforehand, and when I saw the service desk role that came up, I could see that there was parallels between the two. So when I put my CV together and applied for that, I made sure that I really went in on those skills that I could bring. And like I said, that got me into the SOC and then got me to where I am today. My third would be to really expand your network. LinkedIn is a huge one for this. I know during the pandemic, I didn't have the opportunity to go to networking events in person. And during this time, I really expanded my own LinkedIn network. And by doing that, I became exposed to roles that I didn't even know about before. And I think for me, originally, I didn't even know about threat intel until I got into the SOC. Whereas previously, if I'd expanded my LinkedIn network, I'd have had my eyes open to a lot more different roles that I could have moved into. And also expanding your network to link up with the different recruitment agents now that specialise in cyber, like Trident Search, for example. They will really open you up to different areas that you could move into.
Really interesting. So yeah, those recruiters are actually playing a role in this shift as well. JJ, what advice would you have for people who are thinking about moving into the sector from a...
So I think one of the key things that people need to do is research properly, is take a step back, take a breather, and research everything that they need to do, everything they need to know. So let's just say they are at square one. What is cybersecurity? Go spend some time researching it. Understand what it is, understand the roles available, then go further, understand what that role requires, because you need to start to build a logical plan to gain yourself all that knowledge and all that required knowledge to fulfill that role. Because a lot of people, what I see, they jump into cybersecurity and they start learning, but there's no real direction, there's no real motivation behind it. It's just learn, learn, learn. But at the end of it, they're like, well, where am I going? So instead of putting the proverbial sails up on your boat and just letting the wind take you, grab your oars and row in that direction by doing that research and understanding where you want to go, and paying respect to what Natalie said about LinkedIn. We're in the technical age now where the age of giving CVs out doesn't work anymore. Going on to Monster or Indeed and just tapping apply doesn't work anymore. You need to build a network. You need to start connecting with people in the industry, connecting with recruiters, getting your name out there and building that personal brand to show people your passion and your skills.
Good point. Natalie, I think you had something you wanted to feed in there about apprenticeships as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that point in because I know in this industry it can be very daunting with qualifications and degrees and all these different certifications, but I did not realise when I first got my role in a SOC that there's a lot of different pathways into the SOC through doing apprenticeships. There's loads out there that you can apply for. So if there's also anyone thinking, I don't have degrees and loads of qualifications, look into apprenticeships because there are loads out there that you can apply for. So that's another pathway in.
Yeah, very interesting point. I mean, the National Cybersecurity has apprenticeships for people I know and support people to undertake a degree program, and the degree can be from absolutely any discipline, which I always thought was quite a strong indicator of the diverse pool of people that they draw from and the diverse skills and backgrounds that they value. Vince, perhaps you could talk a little bit about, because it's one thing for people from a non-traditional background to think about the pathways into this sector, but as someone who's in a hiring position, what are the aspects of someone's application or their CV that kind of jump out at you if they don't have that conventional cybersecurity background?
There are a lot of things that can make a profile really interesting, even if coming from a total untraditional background. What I'm looking at immediately is what I would call the boldness effect. Okay, so first of all, someone that is telling you why is trying to get into cybersecurity, even if this is not its first career path. I had an opportunity to hire someone that was trained as a military doctor, and I hired him as an analyst in a SOC. But his explanation was so, I would say, full of motivation that it was, I would say, he ticked the first box. Secondly, I would advise people also to show their curiosity within their CV. It's not because you are coming from an untraditional background that you cannot work for a traditional organization. And if in your CV, in your resume, you demonstrate some kind of a curiosity and areas of interests that match part of cybersecurity pillars, it makes also you very interesting from a recruitment perspective. Last but not least, I would never never hesitate to hire someone that is true about his own maturity in the cybersecurity landscape. We are seeing a lot of overselling in the CVs we are receiving on a daily basis. And I will way much more appreciate someone that will tell me in a cover letter or in the CV, I want to learn, I need to learn, because this path, this domain is really a passion, but this is not my main area of expertise. Then someone that will post tons of certifications, that will tell that he saw already everything, because no one in that community has a magic wand.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, it's one thing that defines that this sector is just constant learning, isn't it? So, and it's sort of like the more you know, the more you need to continue learning. JJ, does that resonate with you? Are you looking at CVs and applications of people from non-traditional backgrounds that resonate with your own experience of what would kind of spark your interest?
Certainly. When I look at people's CVs that have maybe done like a year of studying, but prior to their studying, they've maybe been in the customer service role or something like that, you know, I start to look at, well, they understand how businesses operate. They understand what business is required to keep operating. And that is transferable. They're able to look at maybe the Security Operations Center and understand what are our requirements to keep operating. And so they have that visibility already than somebody that's maybe not gone through that, or as they may have gone through university and not been able to understand the business. So when somebody's been through different employment, they understand different elements of the business. As well, they have a customer-facing skill. They have that ability to write. When it comes to reports, they could be a bit more verbose. They could add more information. And if we have people that are maybe not just straight line thinking and they do think outside the box, they may see problems from a different light, from a different angle, which is incredibly important, especially as a team.
Mm. Yeah, very valuable. Can I ask you a follow-on question, JJ, and also being interested in your view on this, Vince? I mean, I work at a university, but how important is a university degree as compared to industry certifications?
I think it's incredibly hard to answer without injecting any kind of personal bias to that. I think the value of a certification or a degree is really up to the individual and how much effort they want to put into it and how much they want to get out from it. They can do the bare minimum and get a pass. They can go forth and do more and learn more, ask the right questions, maybe do additional classes or take additional hours of research to really develop themselves. So I think the real quality and the real value is down to the individual. I don't think it's always down to the degree itself.
I would totally agree.
What about you, Vince?
I would totally agree with JJ, Madeline. Basically, I think in certain type of roles within a SOC, a university degree can maybe bring a little bit of more structure to people, and also give them some methodologies, for example, to create and build things in teams. However, it's up to each and every individual to I would say, push themselves and to use what they learn either in industry certifications or with their university degree. The SOC world and all jobs that you perform in the security operations centers are jobs that mostly you learn on the ground, on the shop floor, and I would say it's up to the people to really make the best out of it. And it's up also to the management and to the leadership teams and also the mentors of those organizations to help people to do that.
Yeah, really interesting. Look, we've talked a bit about how people came into this sector. We've talked a bit about how to identify a bigger pool of people that would be suitable to work in this sector. And we've talked about some of the kind of elements or aspects that could support SOC managers to onboard people from non-traditional backgrounds. What about retention? I mean, this is also a huge issue in this sector, isn't it? working in a SOC is a highly stressful workplace. It's not a 9-to-5 job, and cybersecurity firms themselves are tend to be stressful places. How do we make this workplace into a kind of environment where we can help people really fulfill their potential? We can extract the best from them, but we can keep them happy. And JJ, if you got ideas on that, what makes a difference?
I think the biggest difference would, especially from me, from my point of view, would be having that visibility on progression and having that support around that. So if somebody could give me clear goalposts to say, like, I'm a tier 1 analyst now, what do I need to do to improve, and where can I get to if I do improve? I think one of the most disheartening things in my career is when you go into a business and there's no clear lines of progression. It's just, you're in that role, you do a job, and it doesn't motivate me to learn. It doesn't motivate me to want to progress, because I can't visibly see it. So for me, I want to be shown that route progression, and I want that support.
Yeah, really interesting. I mean, I ask people this question all the time, people who work in the tech sector, not just in SOCs, but in cybersecurity generally, and they very rarely answer Maori, but it's not enough, really, is it, to hang on to good people? And I think that point about being able to see a pathway for yourself and a kind of journey for yourself is a really important one. Vince, do you have views on that?
Oh, I have very strong views. I had the opportunity in my career to build more than 30 security operation centers. And basically, one of my motto was always to bring some kind of a very positive environment for the team. If you want to retain people, you need to bring them everything they need. One of the basic things they would need was, for example, very good tooling, something that could almost bring them easier, autonomous way of doing things, and not losing time on basic stuff, but really performing their job, which is providing a cybersecurity analysis. Another key things that I always tried to develop and put in place was also to find a way and time for SOC analysts to have a little bit of freedom, do their own research, publish their own research, attend conferences, and share everything they found or what they think is interesting with the team. By having some kind of good balance between helping them on the day-to-day job with state-of-the-art tooling, and at the same time bringing some kind of an open mind working environment, was each and every time really successful.
Yeah, I'll just add, for me...
Yeah, again, thanks, Vince.
Sorry. I think both really great points from you both there, and then for me as well, I'll just add on, just making it fun. I mean, for the people at Talion, I know the best thing about working here is the people that I work with. We have a great team that really look out for one another and support each other, especially today when we're talking about analysts being under pressure, coming out of responding to an incident. The pressure that analyst will feel, it's really important that they've got some kind of way to come down afterwards from that. But also for the team to have things to look forward to, things to go out and bond over, whether that's just a social event or even just a team building exercise. I think it's really important that we also have that fun element as well, because of the pressures that we do all have to deal with the job that we do.
Yeah, thanks, Natalie. Really interesting. And I think too, to hear from you guys about how you do turn what is essentially a stressful, demanding workplace into a place where people really want to stay and feel that they're progressing and making something of themselves and their careers. We have one final question in the Q&A. I don't know if we have time to take it. We've got literally about 30 seconds. Anybody want to pick that one up about when you do hire someone in terms of risk management? What kind of signals do you look for that they're potentially not truthful or not honest or don't have the kind of integrity required for this job?
I can take it, Madeline. So basically now we have a background check tooling that we can use, but cybersecurity is a very small community. So always verify reference, always talk to people, and always try to see if they know basic things versus complex things. Using that combination, you can detect if someone has a chance to be less truthful than someone else. That's basically what I use each and every time.
Fantastic. I think we've done a great kind of survey of this today, because I think we've pulled out the complexity, not just the ambition to pull from a more diverse group of people and incorporate a wider cohort into our SOC work, but also the challenges and the complexities of that we do have to be real about and think creatively and innovatively about how we can address those, how we can support SOCs and SOC managers and SOC teams to incorporate a wider group of people. So I want to just really, thank JJ, Vince, and Natalie for your insights today. It's been really, really interesting session. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us and for really being an inspiration to, I'm sure, a lot of people online who are considering this as their future or who are considering bringing in people from a non-traditional background into their workplace. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Madeline. Thank you, panelists. This is Justine from Devo, just to say thank you. I hope you all enjoyed the sessions today. If you'd love to hear from more experts, this is really the third session in SOC Analyst Day today. So if you want to log back in at 4 o'clock till about 9:30 this evening UK time, there's even more webinars. There's anything to do with yoga and all sorts of interviews and discussions. So thank you very much. This concludes the discussion today. And let's keep the conversation going on LinkedIn. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.